Hello, everybody. I just got a notification that we're online.
Very good.
Hello, beautiful Kerri. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa. And of course, with our focus on Australia, my favorite people.
You say that to everybody.
I love you, Aussies. You know I love you, Aussies. You're my favorite. You definitely are my favorites. I've got some very, I think, also the fact I always say we have such friendly rivalry between us, in terms of sports events and stuff. I know I come from a big rugby family, so always the Australians. And of course, I've got siblings who live in Australia. So we're on a family chat group. And oh my gosh, you can imagine when South Africa and Australia are playing either cricket or rugby against each other. You get the Australian brothers-in-law and the South African brothers. Pandemonium.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, I love you Australians. So yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, we have
How are you?
I was going to say we have our own unique way of seeing the world, and I don't think we take ourselves over seriously a lot.
I think there's so many similarities with South Africans and Australians. That's the thing, and I think that's why you're going to find when a lot of South Africans emigrate, they will go to Australia. And I know that there's a very big South African expat community in Australia. So, I mean, I know we've just about taken over some parts of ours. And I know definitely the climate, I think the climate, that whole almost like desert, semi-desert, the heat, stuff like that. And also, I mean, our animals are different, but we also have very like snaky, spidery, scorpiony things similar to what you guys have. So
I mean, they say there's plenty of animals in Australia that want to kill you, but I think about South Africa, and I was like, really? Oh, we don't have lions here.
No, don't worry. We've got to run for our lives here. Make that mistake. Oh, wow. Hello, Caleb. We were just talking about you, actually.
Carefully.
So, yeah.
I'm not allowed to mention his name.
Well, there he is, watching you. So I think it's time that we had Caleb on another one of your shows as well. I think that'll be fun. Yeah.
Well, I must say, and I'd like to say that the interview with Jessie and Alice was absolutely beautiful. Like, there was so much in that interview and so much they shared. So if anybody hasn't seen it, go see it because it was really good. So
yeah, are you talking about the interview with Jessie and Alice in terms of the masculine, the marvelous something, whatever, marvelous men or whatever it was?
Yeah, it was really great. There were some elements of it that I really identified with when Alice was talking, and so was Jessie. When you've been through so much and you start reliving it, it comes out in parts of your life, and the component between what is mental health and what is spiritual, like attacks, and how people don't know the difference and why it should be so important. And also the church, in a sense, like either they don't want to know, they don't want to deal with it spiritually, or it's just, you're cuckoo, go away. So,
seriously, I honestly think the church is largely responsible for this kind of stuff happening. I definitely, when you're looking at the amount of SRA that occurs in the churches, it's disgusting.
Yes.
And I think that's why I always say the church is the infiltrator. It infiltrates people in many, many instances. These guys have absolutely known how to manipulate humans when it comes to religion. So, and I'm not saying every church, please, and I'm not saying every pastor or every priest or whatever, obviously. But when we're hearing, so many of the whistleblowers speak. I mean, there was a South African whistleblower that I heard speak a number of years ago, actually, when I first started this platform. It was so disturbing to me one of the girls, and as we know, I have a lot of South African viewers which I'm not even aware of, but they're growing more and more. They'll email me behind the scene and they'll tell me stuff, and I'm like, really? That's so cool. So it's actually really cool to have the South Africans here. But this one, they're very scared to talk. They won't talk because the witchcraft here is so strong. You know, the African witchcraft is very, very hectic. Can be very, very hectic. But what this one guy was saying, that he was brought up in the church as well, and
Sorry,
show us your tat. Show us your tat. I was like, wild Aussie woman. I was like wondering if we like, what are we talking about? Okay, it's your tat. But what I just wanted to say about him was that you go into that he was talking about going into the churches, and he was a 5-year-old kid, and there was a guy strapped to a cross, right, in the cross position with an erection, Jesus, that was raping him, right, sodomizing and doing whatever. And then the guys that were strapping him on that cross, like afterwards would take him off, and then they'd beat him up because now he was bad. And then this kid would go and associate with him because now they're beating up Jesus, because his association with Jesus had been that. So that was the kind of the and this was in the Dutch Reformed Church, which is the Afrikaans church here, which was when you go back into old age politics, the Nationalist Party, the guys that actually were the greatest perpetrators of apartheid, were very much affiliated to the Dutch Reformed Church. It's hectic when you go back into that. So, you know, there's a lot of that stuff, which I just, no, thank you very much. We were just actually saying on Caleb's show last night, we were talking about churches and religions and stuff like that. I said, you know, for me to sit here with everyone in these communities, this is where I commune. This for me is church. And I don't even like to say that word because, but you know what I mean? It's like where you get your community together and you're actually talking and you connecting in that way. So anyway, hello everybody. Nice to have you all joining us.
Well, Aussie woman got straight into it, you know. It's just hi.
Well, I mean, I know you can show us your tat when you're well and good. At a time when you feel comfortable to share your tat.
Well, okay,
in the meantime, you can show us that little koala. Is that a koala on your t-shirt?
No, it's a flower, and it's just got.
It's either a koala or a flower, but the way it's sitting, it looks like the koala's nose, and it looks like a koala
it's a flower, and then it's got the kindness underneath it, and.
Okay, well, it looks like a little koala bear to me, so.
It's a flower. It's just a flower. Please don't anybody read anything into it. It's a flower, you know, and it's just.
We were just talking. That poor girl that is now married to what I'm sure is Kanye West's clone. Just talking about that. We were talking a little bit about it off air. Bianca Satori, I think her name is Satori or something. She's an Australian. That's why I bring her up with you. Just before we're actually tuning in, I was like, that came up on my feed. And I'm seeing how she's walking around almost wearing nothing, but carrying big, fat, fluffy toys. Like one was a koala bear, another was a polar bear, then a cat. So this whole thing with stuffed toys. I'd be interested to know, Caleb, you might know what that's about, all this, or anyone else in the chat, to understand what all this symbolism is with these fluffy toys. I mean, we understand bears and what have you, understand that, but why is she doing that? Because I'm convinced that's not even Kanye West anymore, especially not after. And I'm sure the Kardashians did something with him. I don't care if I'm going to get knocked over for that, but I'm convinced those women did something to him. And this is his clone who's now got this girl walking around the streets with no clothes on. This Australian girl with a whole bunch of stuffed fluffy toys. It's just very interesting. I mean, anyway, not that we were going to be talking about that today, but I guess you Aussies are crazy enough to talk about anything.
I figured that because people don't know, Chantelle and I have been having some discussions outside of our little chats here, and of course I divulge other stuff to Chantelle that I haven't divulged publicly, and there's a number of reasons why I've not done that, and weighing it up and working out when the right time is and when I'm ready to. So normally I kind of have prayer to myself before I start come on Chantelle's show, but I think in light of what we may talk about today, I would really like to open with prayer, if that's okay.
So, absolutely, we do that. Absolutely.
Oh, gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful time we can spend together, and we thank you, Lord, that you have helped us through the coming week. And we ask this, Lord, that you be with us now as we speak about the things that I've endured as a child and things that I've endured as an adult, Lord. And I pray that your words will be on my lips, and, Lord, that you will help others to learn and be uplifted too by my story. And, Lord, I just place myself before you right now and Chantelle, and I pray, Lord, that you'll be with us and be with those that are listening. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
Amen. That, yeah.
So I will. We've titled it "Do I Matter?"
Yeah.
And it is a bit of a subject where probably a bit of a sore point. I know it's a sore point, but it's obviously a sensitive point with me, because it's been the bane of my life journey. Do I matter? Or so I'm willing to share my tattoos because it will probably open up this whole discussion. So I have actually 3 tattoos basically into one. So okay, so I'll say this now. I didn't get my tattoos till late in life, and when I did, my daughter just about had a heart attack, because the way that I was, my daughter's like, it's like you've taken the moon, turned it upside down, given it a good shake. This is what mum's done that is completely opposite to what I would imagine she would ever have done. When my son wanted, I think he wanted a tattoo or his ears pierced or something, my youngest child. And of course, this is before I got my tattoos. And my response was, when I get a tattoo, you can have it. Right. And he just went, oh, well, it's never going to happen, is it? So the day I got my first tattoo, he reminded me that he was now allowed to get what he wanted because his mother now has a tattoo. So they didn't have anything to leverage to fight with. Parents, be careful what you say, because it will come back to bite you. All right, so exactly. I have 3 tattoos. Okay, I don't know if people can see this. So there's a tattoo. Oh, I hate this thing. There's actually a rose there that weaves around there. Okay, where the rose is, I had a melanoma removed from my arm, and when they sewed it up, it looked like Zorro, so it looked pretty ghastly, and I thought, okay, I'll get that done. But I did the rose because it reminds me of what my Lord endured, and so that was pretty much my first tattoo, and it was just to cover up from a melanoma. The one that's on my wrist is of, people can see, this is really hard. I'll stand up so people can see it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there we go. You can see that quite nicely.
All right. So it's the dove. It's, again, it has a spiritual connotation. There are 3 words above that dove, which says love, live, love, thrive. And there are 2 dates underneath the dove. And the dates are significant because they are the years that I got the federal and state apologies. Now, the reason I got that specific tattoo was because there's a scar that runs across the wrist. And I was very sensitive about anybody seeing that scar. Like, I don't wear that scar as a badge of honor or to get attention. I actually put the tattoo there to try and hide it. I would often wear my watch over there, but sometimes I didn't feel like wearing a watch. So I thought needed to get a tattoo there because I didn't want it to be a discussion. You're out talking to people and it's like they start asking questions. So if I seem like I'm a little bit hesitant in my words right now, it's because it is a fragile thing for me to actually even discuss it. And so why I put the words live, love, thrive was if I ever look down my hand, because I can still see the scar, it will always remind me that if I ever felt that way again, I would see the words live, love, thrive, and the battle and the fight that I endured to get the apologies and how significant it was, and having that recognition about the truth of what happened to me. Because the apologies in themselves, you know, we know that apologies from politicians can often fall very dead on the ground. But to me, it was the recognition publicly by my country of what happened to me. So the other tattoo is my son's name, which I had inside the rose, and there's some music notes there because my son was an avid musician. He'd taken up playing guitar and he was very gifted. So I that was something I had to go through in essence of his loss, and I felt that for me, that it was important for me to have his name on me somewhere. And so yeah, so that's the story. They're very significant. They have you know, when I got the melanoma, I had one when I was pregnant with my son, and because of my spine, I was 37 when I had my youngest child, and I was suffering a lot of back pain, and I didn't want to take heavy pain medication because of the back pain. And so I took myself off to a GP that did laser and heat treatment, and one of the nurses there spotted a mole right beside where the fracture is in my spine and said it seems a bit strange, get the doctor check it out. And he had a look at it, he drew it, I couldn't see it, it was right in the middle of my spine. He said keep an eye on it, if it changes the next 3 months, come back. Within weeks, I'm feeling very strongly that something's wrong. So I went back to my normal GP and I was like, can you have a look at it? And his response was, I don't think there's anything wrong. We will cut it out after the baby's born. And I'm like, why wait? And he said, because the scarring heals better. And I said, look, this is the middle of my back. I don't care about it. This would have to be the first time in my life that I've actually overridden some sort of medical thing, like a GP. Like, no, I've got a gut feeling I need you to take it. So he did. And when the result came back, it was a level 2 melanoma, and I was 6 months pregnant, and they spread rapidly. And I really, if I had not insisted, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. I didn't even wait for the specialist. The GP opened up his surgery for me on a Sunday, and him and his wife, who's a nurse, did it themselves. I remember I couldn't be knocked out, and there was only so much they can inject into me because I was pregnant, and I actually had a bleed, and I could hear them panicking in the background, and all I could do was lay in that bed. I was calm as I was just singing, you know, songs that I knew from church in my head and just talking to God. And then on the last suture, they'd gone through a packet of sutures, you know, those things that mop up all the blood. Apparently they got to the last one and they were able to sew it up. And so I've got a scar on my back right beside where the fracture is in my spine, about that long. And I think about the fact that here's this injury that I sustained as a child by something horrific that I still have no memory of. I fall pregnant and I don't want to harm my baby by taking any strong pain meds. I want to go and do something natural about it, something to deal with the pain. And it was actually that fracture that basically saved my life.
Wow.
So
in an indirect way, everything can be a blessing in disguise if we choose to see it that way. Right.
Yeah. If I hadn't had pain there and that mole was there, nobody would have seen it. Nobody would have addressed it. And it was just a mole that had slightly changed shape. It didn't look like much at all. And it took 2 doctors to think it wasn't much at all. And, I really felt the Lord telling me to deal with it. That's how I feel about it. It was like really insistent. I need you to speak up. And I was quite urgent about it. So, yeah, what can I say about that? I don't know in the sense of I just felt, how do I equate that in the sense of what I grew up with, the horrific stuff I grew up with. And, I've blocked out how that injury occurred. And it's so significant that the doctors have told me I wouldn't have been able to walk for a period of time and would have been excruciating pain. And they cannot comprehend how I could not remember that. And I should have had hospital treatment. I should have had help, and I didn't have anything. So it is a sensitive subject with me, even when I talk about it. And when I have to go to a doctor or a massage therapist or a chiropractor or anything, and they've got to ask me, how did it happen? I'm triggered. I go through moments where I really struggle. So it all depends on somebody's approach. It might depend on whether I'm in a low mood before I get in there or what. But it's something I'm in pain with every day. Some days are quite bearable, and some days are horrendously unbearable. So, but if I didn't have it, I may not be here. So I don't know. Yeah. So that's my tattoos. That's my back. So what I'm going to ask, there's a photo there, a black and white photo. Chantelle, do you want to bring it up for me?
Yeah,
it's my first photo, the youngest one. So I've given Chantelle a bunch of photos.
Let me just find them here.
Yep.
I'm still learning.
That's right.
Are we talking about the little bambino? When you were a little bambino?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, look at you. Such a little cutie patootie. Okay.
Yeah, the big eyes.
Yeah.
When I look at that, I don't even know what age I am. And when I look at that, all I see is pain. I've got photos of my daughter, the same age, same haircut, photos of my mother, my biological mother, pretty much the same age, same haircut. We all look alike. It's pretty freaky. To me, it's freaky. People take it for granted, but for me, but I look into those eyes and I just see there's a whole heap of pain behind those eyes. So I have no idea.
About 2, yeah? Round about 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that I don't have many photos of me at all. I actually destroyed a whole bunch of them, and that's another story. So that's the only one that basically survived. Okay, there's another photo there. There's a house there. It's a pretty beat up, that place. That's my childhood. Yep, that is my childhood home. Look at the great house I went to. Look at that lovely home I went to. as an adopted child. And the bedroom at the end of the veranda was my bedroom. And this is a housing commission home in Inala, if anybody knows where Inala is. I went back to this place just before the federal and state apologies. I couldn't even get on the footpath. It's the first time I'd been back since I started having my flashbacks. And all I could hear was screaming coming from this house, and I just couldn't even walk. I got to the gutter and couldn't pick up any sand, because the whole idea was to take sand from these places and have a ceremony with my children, dumping the sand at Parliament House, both in Canberra and Queensland and Brisbane. So, yeah, that's the all this in Inala. They set up. It was initially military housing estate for people who'd come back from the war, and apparently it kind of went broke, and then the government took it over and they built all these houses. So it's wall-to-wall housing commission homes, and the last time I went back there, the shopping centres looked like little Beirut. It was pretty bad. So that's the mansion I got sent to when I was taken out of the hospital and given to my adopted parents.
Which you had to be so grateful.
Yes. We didn't have a toilet.
It didn't have a toilet. Is that what you're saying? It didn't have a toilet.
Well, initially I remember being there, and they had what we call the thunder box in the backyard, so it had no sewage. So it had no septic sewage system. They had the old dunny man that used to drive around in the truck, and they'd jump out and they'd come and take the waste. That was basically in this thunder box. So, and then I remember them putting a toilet in the laundry downstairs, and they never ever put one upstairs. So I went to school during the week, and on the weekends I'd have to come home on a Friday night. We would pack up a carload and a trailer load of belongings, and we would drive over an hour, I think, to another suburb called Park Ridge, where we worked in the charcoal pits. So if you go to the photo of there's like a long road and there's trees in it, Chantelle. All right. So we were taking a Park Ridge. This is the road into the property. So that it's quite a ways away from a main road. This is my driveway. And so this property would be, the house was kind of way back off with a whole heap of properties and trees and bushland completely surrounding it. So nobody saw what happened on this property. This was the road I walked every morning and every afternoon to walk for a few more kilometres to catch a bus. But as you can see, there's a lot. I mean, those trees there, there's probably less trees there than what there was when I was a child. And when I went back there to get sand to lay in a ceremony at Parliament House, I got permission. It was sold and it's rented out now, and I actually got permission from the people renting it that I could go on the property and get sand from significant places. Now, there's a section on this property that, because there's a gate at the front and there's a gate at the back, that's sort of at the front of the 20 acres. And I think I was about 12 when my adoptive father, there was something happening. He wanted me to work in the charcoal pits, and I swore at him and I ran, and I actually started to run towards this road to get away from him. And we had barbed wire fencing, but the gate was also made of barbed wire. And he ran after me with such anger, was exploding. I knew I just had to get away from him. And all I could see was this gate that I was never going to get through. And then I saw the 3-strand barbed wire fence, and I actually dove through it. And I thought, good, I've gotten away from him. He's not going to get through this barbed wire fence. But as I got up and took a few steps, I fell. And as I fell, I turned my head to see where he was, hoping he hadn't gone over the fence, but he had. And as I turned, I saw his whole black shadow coming down on me and the sun piercing my eyes. And at that stage, he just grabbed me by the back of my hair and reefed me to my feet by my hair, and then started kicking me all in my back, my lower back, with his very heavy, whether they're army boots or work boots, and then dragged me back into the charcoal pits. And I don't remember anything after that. So there were, like, I'm just giving you a picture and the essence of the isolation of what it was like, that nobody could hear or see anything that was happening there. And why I'm saying this is because the day I walked down there, the road, the easement up to the house, I remembered it being a specific way, but it's been rented out over the years and they moved it. And I wanted to grab sand from the place where my adoptive father had kicked into me, and I froze. And we talk about being triggered. I froze because I realized I was standing right on that spot. Somebody had moved the road, and I began to shake and sweat at trying to grab some of the sand to put it in my container. When you went onto the property and go through the gate, there was a section up to the left of the property on the 20 acres where a whole bunch of trees had been cut down. There was a massive big gum tree, and it created a bit of a cavern and a safe place for me. I used to hide in there, and I used to sit and talk to God, and I used to watch all the small birds come and just nest in the trees around me. And that's where I would write and dream about my mother and my family and wonder why I'd ever been adopted. It was really painful to be so lonely and so affected by all this abuse. And I would just find this really quiet moment to try and talk to God and dream about my mother, because at this stage I had believed that my mother had died giving birth to me and couldn't understand why no family member had taken me instead. So I put some of the safe sand in a container, like that space. I put some in a container separate, and I put some in with the container from the house at Anala, and where I got kicked that day. And then I walked over to where the charcoal pits used to be. They were no longer there, but I knew exactly where they had been, and I took sand from different places there because of the significance of it. The original house was gone. It was a fibro shack. It was no longer there. And I walked out of the property, and that was a huge moment for me to actually do that. I felt it was really symbolic to do that. I felt that it was really confronting, but it was also, I felt that was really important to my healing to confront head on that some of the things that had happened to me. Okay, you can get rid of that picture now, Chantelle.
Okay, is there any other one you want me to put up?
Yeah, there's one there of me with a little puppy. All right. Now, I don't know if anybody can see something in this photo. Do you want to have a look, Chantelle, and see if you can see what I'm going to point out? Other than Fred Flintstone, the Freemason.
I'm looking at your T-shirt there, trying to figure out what Fred's doing there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, to me, I'd be honest. I'm looking at a little girl who's got a puppy, and it looks like a helmet that you have the puppy in.
All right.
But other than that,
I'm about 11 there. Have a look at my biceps.
Right. Wow. Strong arms. Yeah. Wow. Wow.
So,
indicative of how you've been working.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that really stood out for me when I noticed it. You know, when you block out most of your childhood and you end up finding photos, there are things that just kind of really jump out at you. It's either in the eyes or it's in, you know, your posture. That dog there was named Sheba, and I absolutely adored this dog, and I started training her. I'd had no help with training, and she would do anything. And we'd had her for a number of years, and we had about 4 dogs by that stage. I come home from school and she was gone, and so the other dogs. My mother had decided that she no longer wanted them, and they were a burden to her, and just got rid of them. And these are the losses that I would incur. They weren't just losses in the sense of the grief of losing my mum, my biological family. Nothing was mine. My body wasn't mine. My things weren't mine. My feelings weren't mine. We had a number of cats. I would rescue many animals. I'd rescue birds, cats, mice, anything, bring it home. We had 13 cats at one stage. Same thing, came home one day. My adopted mother was drowning them all in the dam in a Hessian bag, probably about 2 or 3 at a time.
Oh my gosh.
Let's skip that. This take that photo down for a sec so I can finish my story. Just take that photo down for a sec, Chantelle.
Yeah, taking it down now, sorry.
That's all right. So I can't remember how old I was. I had raised many of these cats by kittens. And what's really significant about this piece of it is that I can remember being told from as young as I can remember that if I didn't measure up, if I didn't behave, if I didn't do as I was told, I would be sent away to a home where unwanted children go, because my mother didn't want me and died giving birth to me, so I was told. And that I would be sent away to a home where I'd be stripped naked, chained to a bed, have rats crawl over me, be fed bread and water, sleep on a bed with no mattress, and basically just have horrible things done to me. It was just a list of things. And I had a flashback some years ago, and the first memory I had of it happening, I think I was about 27. This was the first flashback of that memory. And all I could do, I could see myself in a car. I was in the back seat with my brothers. We were obviously going somewhere, and we're being told to behave ourselves. And the adopted mother starts saying, if you don't, you're going to go to a home where you're chained to the bed, fed bread and water, have rats crawl over you, be stripped naked, and be strapped and beaten every day. And all of a sudden the car stops, and we're at an intersection, and she points to a building on the left-hand side with an 8-foot-high chain-wire fence around it. And she says, that's the place. That's where you're going to go. And so she made it tangible. She made it real. It wasn't just, that was the first realization that this was the way. This was their way, or her way mostly, of controlling us and threatening us, unwanted children, with being disposed of. So like the cats she drowned, when I came home, I grew up thinking, when is my turn? When is it going to be my turn to be done away with, whether it was physical in the sense of ending my life or sent away? So, yeah, this is the lovely adoptive family that I was sent to that was supposed to give me a better life than the one that my mother couldn't give me. There's another photo there. There's one there of me with really long hair.
This one here?
Yep, that's it there. So I'm about 14 there, and I know I'm 14 because there's somebody right beside me who is older than me, and he was the guy I was dating at the time that became my husband. Now, if you look at my clothing, you look at it torn up and everything it is. So look at the great clothes I'm wearing. I mean, that was probably a good day. At least it's not covered in charcoal, but I would have been working all around the yard. And, you know, this is, yeah. So here's the smile on the face, but there was a lot going on at this age in particular, because I was really rebelling against my adoptive father in particular, and I was copying an enormous amount of abuse. I left school early, and I was working, and I'd had my own horse, and I'd come home in an afternoon, and my boyfriend was with me, and I immediately, my mother is telling me in a very aggressive sort of tone that I needed to get water to the horses, because we had a dam, but we had to carry the water to the horses to their trough. And I was like, yeah, I'll be there in a minute, just got to get a drink. I don't know what I was doing, but it was like, yeah, I'm coming. And within, you know, in a very short period, she disappeared. And then I saw her walking past the door with 2 buckets with this very intense, angry look on her face. And then I saw her walk past the kitchen window where my boyfriend was standing in front of me, and she's going behind in the background. And I could see this aggression. And I knew immediately that I had to go and run off and chase her, grab the buckets and do this job, because I knew that she may have incited my adoptive father and basically incited his anger, as that I hadn't jumped quick enough. And as I went to go, look, I better go, and go out the back door, I was met by my adoptive father in an absolute rage, screaming at me because I was making my mother do my job. And he grabbed me by the hair and threw me into a wall where the fridge was. So I ended up in the corner, and there was a mop or a broom there. Don't know but which one it was. But as I've landed in the corner, I've grabbed it, and then I've turned around to meet him. And as I turned around to meet him, I've swung the broom at him and tried to hit him. And I missed him by that much. And he jumped back. And I just goaded him on, keep coming, like, do not back off, and make sure if you're going to hit me, you kill me. Because at this stage, I was like 16 and a half, 17. I was done. And I said, if you don't kill me, I said, and you hit me again, I said, I'm going to come in the bedroom while you're sleeping and beat you to death, a lump of 4B2. So this is, and I was determined it was here and now. I'm going to finish this. And it was upsetting in the sense that my boyfriend, who was much older than me, stood there, watched my adoptive father do this to me, and said and did nothing. And in that moment, I felt that nobody was ever going to protect me, not even somebody who claimed to love me.
Wow.
The adoptive father saw the boyfriend out of the corner of the eye and laughed, made some sort of smirk joke, because it would have been the first time somebody would have seen him lay hands on me. and he just walked away. But I made sure from that day on forward that the adoptive father never touched me again. So, do I matter in all of that?
Oh, you matter. And I love Caleb's comment there, actually, fierce shield maiden, and I've got to say I agree with that.
What was that?
Fierce shield maiden. That's what Caleb has called you.
Oh, wow.
I mean, yeah, that would absolutely fit your character completely. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think it's so... You know, I have no words for that. I'm trying to find just, you know, especially from someone who's never been abused before. I mean, I got my ass whipped now and again, you know, when I was a kid for whatever it was, you know, if I did naughty stuff, but never, you know, never ever to the point of abuse. And I think it's so difficult to imagine. I always say this, and I don't think I'll ever stop saying this as long as I live. I cannot imagine that any adult would think it's okay to do this to a child. How do you even think that is okay? It's just not okay. But I want to say I love your bravery, your courage, your sass, your spiciness when it came to that, because I think at the end of the day you reached that point where it was just no more. Enough is enough now. And he must have actually known that. He must have sensed that, because he obviously didn't try his luck with you again after that, right? Am I right when I say that? He realized that he couldn't do that anymore. And as long as he realized he couldn't do that anymore, you know, he then started behaving differently. But yeah, you know, all I can say, Kerri, is I'm so sorry that you went through that. And I know, you know, just reading some of these comments in here as well, you're not the only one sitting in the chat who's been through that. So, but I'm just so grateful that you are here telling the story, you know. And I mean, I know God has absolutely spared people like yourself to come forth and speak about these things, to bring these topics to light. And as uncomfortable as what it is, it really, I mean, I sit here and I'm cringing. I can't even sit still on my chair. You're probably hearing me wriggle around and watching me it's like, oh man, to think that people do that. It's horrific for me. But it takes people like yourself that have been through that and that have the courage. And I know you're a little thing, Kerri. You're not like tall and what have you. You're a little thing. I know that. You know, to have this little person with so much courage and so much bravery, you know, sitting here, taking on the government, taking on these people, sharing your story. It really is a pleasure to watch your transformation and to watch the difference you're making for others who've been in that position as well. So all I can say to you is honor you, man. Honestly, it takes a lot of strength to do what you've done.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm loving Caleb's comments, because I mean, I know Caleb's been on the show with you before. It'd be great for those of you who have not seen that interview yet with Caleb and Kerri a couple of weeks back. It was absolutely gorgeous to watch the two of you. Both of you have been adopted, and Caleb went on to be this ferocious warrior for the US military. And obviously studied the arcane, you know, being a victim of the wild hunt, and you know, from where that took him as a 10-year-old child, and you know, just saying, you know, he would have you stand beside him any day of the week.
I'll go for the ankles, Caleb.
I think it's just amazing. Wow. And I'm looking at Easy. It does make you kick ass, Caleb. You get to a stage where your younger self has had enough. I so agree with you, Easy E, true self-Fordian. I shall call you Easy E. But it's still locked in your mind.
Yeah.
And it happens, no bully or abuser will ever hurt you or any of yours. And that's true, you know. But sadly, I think in these situations, it's you know, one tends to live on that edge, right? You're constantly waiting for something or someone to attack. I would imagine that must have that type of effect on you. And absolutely, you do matter. You absolutely do matter in such a way that is so beautiful and so courageous. Really, it's wonderful to see how you've turned this around.
Yeah, thank you.
So many. Yeah, absolutely.
So I got married quite young. I was 18, and I married the man who stood there and let my adoptive father.
I want to ask you about that. I mean, I mean, seriously, I would like, oh, that sounds so bad.
I know.
Like, what do you do, you idiot? Just standing there watching this. Okay, so you went on to marry him. I mean, I'm interested though. Did he say anything after that? Did you say anything? Was it just like normal? And that you then just got up, your dad left, and it was just normal that you carried on as if nothing had happened?
Yeah. Yeah. And he didn't know that this was a frequent thing. He didn't know about the charcoal pits. I hid all of that. I don't know how I managed to do that. He didn't find out until I was 27 that like there was a lot more horrific stuff, like being my adoptive father used to come in the bedroom and suffocate me most mornings that we worked in the charcoal pits. He would come into my, I had no door. There was no door in the bedroom. There was no door on the bathroom. Like, so I had no way of keeping my adoptive father out. And I would wake up with him sitting with his full weight on my chest with my pillow over my face. And there were times that I didn't think I was going to survive. So that was his way of saying he had complete control to do to me as he wanted, and there was nothing I could do about it. So I'm 4'8". That's 148 centimeters. I pretty much stopped growing at 13. I was really little. Everybody thought I was the youngest in the family, and I have this very muscular, tall man sitting with his bum on my chest, with his knees on my arms, holding a pillow over my face. This is my father. Like, this is the man that is supposed to protect me and signed papers. There is a man who couldn't have his own children, takes children from another family, and this is what he does to this child. I had blocked that out till I was 27. That was my first memory of any abuse like that. Like, it was a shock to my system that these things happened. And so what I've been able to work out is that then it was about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning my adoptive father would come in, because we used to have to get up so early to work in the pits. So I would somehow have a clock in my head to get up before he came into my room, and I would jump out my window and I would wait for him to come in, and he'd look and obviously see I wasn't there, and then I'd be able to jump back in, and I'd be able to get changed and get dressed, and then I'd hurry up and go out and work in the charcoal pits. And so there were, I was, if I could write, I was about 8, because, you know, when you block things out, your brain, when you have memories that come, and they don't all come at once, they come in different stages of your life, and they can often come when you least expect it. A lot of mine came when I I became a youth worker, and I worked with very abused children. I worked with children that had been in psych wards and juvenile detention and stuff. And unfortunately, at the end of my career, I was assaulted 3 times by 2 different clients, and that was enough to open a door for me to start remembering far more of what I'd endured. And I remember...
You say you were abused with clients. Who are these clients? I mean, by clients, what do you mean by that?
Children. The youngest was 12. The other child was 16. So I worked with children that lived in sort of like residential housing, and I was worked for one service that I was what they call a life skills worker. I did night shifts as well, but I ended up being a life skills worker and a housing worker. I helped these kids navigate their life. I ran group programs, and I helped kids get off drugs and alcohol, and get healing about their own abuse. And I ended up having to move from a very stable job I'd had for many years to another service that didn't take care of their staff the way that they should have. And they had some volatile clients, and I made some very clear directions about my concerns. And a particular client, it was his intentions to rape me. He came at my head with a skateboard, and I was able to defend myself and fight him off. The other child was a child to the department. I don't want to go too much in it because there was a court case about it. Well, not court case, we didn't get that far, but he had been a foster child who had been abused, and unfortunately he imploded on my shift with him, and for an hour and a half I had to defend myself, and because I'm only 4'8" and he was much bigger and a very solid boy, and he'd gone into a full mental breakdown, and his intentions was to kill me. So for an hour and a half I had to defend myself and wait for the cavalry to show up to try and help me. So in those incidences, it triggered some flashbacks in myself, triggered unlocked memories for me from physically having to fight my adoptive father for my life and other things, other people who had hurt me as a child.
I'm assuming these kids that were attacking you were both obviously also from seriously abusive homes, right?
Yep.
So they were obviously reacting to their circumstances and taking it out on you. Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
So that's
insane.
So those incidences, and all within 6 months, I got assaulted 3 times, and then a big truck hit my work car all within 6 months, and I ended up injured and very fragile, and started having horrendous flashbacks. And I tried working for another 12 months, trying to be, just stoic and just deal with it, and it ended my career. I'd have incidences where I would obviously be triggered because I was working for juvenile justice and child safety at the same time. I was actually working for 4 different services in a week and doing back-to-back shifts. So I was doing day shifts with kids who may had to appear in court, or helping them with, anything in their life. And then I was doing night shifts as well. And I was on fairly high demand because, I'd been doing it for nearly 17 years, and I was very good at what I did. And I was good at what I did because of my own background, without really knowing it. Things came very naturally to me, and I picked up on things that some of the most people who've been to university wouldn't have a clue about. And so because of my upbringing, I could see things or read into things or see behaviors that were red lights to me, and I would often be able to intervene or create conversations with young people and open things up so they could get the help they needed. And I was very good at picking up with particular parents who showed up in their fancy clothes and their fancy speech and pretended to be as if butter wouldn't melt in their mouths. And I would deduce certain things, and eventually they would come through. And so I ended up helping a lot of young people. But unfortunately, for some unknown reason, I got ended up in a situation that I had to fight for my life, basically. And it unlocked a lot of things about my childhood. So again, something really bad happened, and I was forced to face some very painful, horrendously painful things about my childhood. But if I had not done that, I would not have gotten into lobbying and speaking up on forced adoption, and I would not have helped the thousands of adoptees and mums and
another
getting
blessing in disguise, Kerri. Another blessing in disguise. You know, God really does work in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, as crazy as what it is in the way that it's done, you know, and, you know, when you look at those kids as well, the way, I mean, obviously their attacks on you were absolutely horrific, but I shudder to think what they themselves must have gone through, you know, to get to that point. It's absolutely horrific. And thank God, I say, thank God it was you and not a man or anyone else that could have killed them. You know, I don't know, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You obviously had God on your side, who was protecting you in those moments as well, right?
Yeah.
And as you say, you know, for me, the blessing in disguise is you having all of that abuse and the trauma in you triggered and really ripping that lid off that you'd obviously secured so securely on your pain, and for that to come up and to enable you to start your healing journey as well. And in so doing, be this advocate for so many other thousands of people on this planet. You said to me the other day when we were talking, because we were talking about you coming onto the show, onto Aquarius Rising Africa, and I was doing a show with Gabby Chung on one of, I'm not sure which survivor it was, from Australia, on the Focus on Australia. And you'd left a comment and it mentioned something about you and being the lobbyist. And I picked up on your comment and I said, please contact Gabby. You need to come onto the show. And you said to me the other day when we were talking, how did I know? And I said, I don't know. I just knew.
Yeah.
You know, I just knew. It was like I had a red alert that this woman needs to come on. And from there, I must say, I never, ever forgot you. And I'm so grateful that even after, you know, Gabby is no longer doing the Focus on Australia, but for me, I wanted you on this channel. And since then, I mean, how long has it been now? Months and months and I don't even know, at least 6 or 8 months. And the hot seat. Yes, you're right, Caleb. This little 4'8" little shield maiden warrior. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's why I say, you know, it's like I have a nose. I mean, I was got a big nose. So I have a schnozzle to smell out these things, you know. And
it was like when you. I just want to say that we were having the discussion, and I said to Chantelle, because we were reminiscing about when I first came on. And there was an Australian lady and she was talking about children, and I happened to just make a comment because I said to Chantelle, I don't even know how I ended up on your channel. I just did, whether I was surfing the net or whatever I was doing. And I saw this great story, made a comment, thought nothing about it. So I comment on other things and nobody ever gets back to me. And you actually said, could I please talk to Gabby? And I was like, oh, okay, who's Gabby? It's like, there. And then I actually asked you, I said, why did you do that? Like, and that's when you said, there was something really honest in something that I'd said, and that you zoned in on it. And lo and behold, I'd never told my story on you, like really like this at all. And you invited me to do that. And I know that got over 4,000 views before it got taken down by YouTube. And so then you invited me back some months later to have another go at it. And here we are, because I'm like, going, why me? Why?
Well, exactly. You know, when I look at this, it's really incredible, because I'll never forget once, you know, I was also, and it's also in my journey, and this has always stuck with me. I've, you know, in many years ago in Johannesburg, I got together, like I started something called the Mind Connection, where I would get together a whole lot of once a month. It started being once a month. And then it was every second week. And eventually we were actually doing it every week at a very nice restaurant in Joburg. I had the Mind Connection. And I would invite speakers to come and showcase was it a book or their story or whatever. And I had a whole database of people. And we would like do this at this restaurant in Fourways in Johannesburg on a Thursday night, I'll never forget. And from there, I then we started traveling to Namibia, and there I had the Desert Soul Festival, where it was this incredible festival I organized for a couple of years. We're just getting people together and speakers and what have you. And one of the guys that I even met in Johannesburg days, a guy called Daya. I love Daya. He is just incredible. He lives in Dubai, born in Africa, the spiritual leader, the spiritual teacher, but he has got the most incredible ways with people. And he was on my first festival in Namibia. And I was driving myself, Yana, and him and his wife, Karima, were driving in the car to the festival. And he looked back at me and he said to me, "You have got the gift of bringing people together." He said, "You've got the gift of bringing the right people together at the right time." And, you know, every now and again, some, you know, people you say something and I just remember that. And it's like at this time as well, you know, when starting this platform for me has been such a gift, because my whole life has changed. I mean, the way I've done things, I mean, you know, I've always had my life, my career in a certain way. Trust me, I had everything sorted out, traveling here, traveling there. I was a traveling healer. Everyone knew me as that, traveling all overseas and what have you, and just really doing my thing and living a nice, uncomplicated life, right?
Yeah.
And then you start the channel. And it is amazing because, I now know that this is what I've been brought here to do. Is to actually have this platform for an international audience all over the world, and have people like yourself. I mean, it started when I first saw Jesse's a Bota, you know, Jesse. And then, you know, and I've always had an idea for this platform to have certain anchors, because I'm not expert in all those areas. I'm a healer. I have a nose for the truth. I know what I'm doing. I've been gifted with beautiful gifts, and this is the true time that we're able to use them. So like you, like Alice, like Caleb, like Jesse, you know, Bryce, Catherine, you know, there's just amazing people that we get to speak to and to get together, and it's just such a beautiful platform of healing, and to create awareness and to share such shitty truths, because really the truth is not something that is pleasant, and it's not something that people want to know a lot of the time. I mean, that's one thing I've known in my life. People would rather look away from it, you know, and deny what's going on. We all have our blind spots for sure, but you know, there's something about having a blind spot, and there's something about being in absolute denial about stuff. And it's, you know, these kinds of shows that really bring people together and get people to see those who want to see, those who are choosing. And I mean, and for you guys who watched last night, we're launching Caleb's book. Hopefully it's going live today. I'll just check with Morné as well. But in one of the books, in one of the stories in his book is a dream he had, and we've called it Revelations. And it's really talking about this. It's talking about these times where there are those people who are like literally conned into believing a false narrative, and they literally are enchanted by that, right?
Yeah.
Caleb, when Shanti gets scary, squeak. Yeah, he started having a squeaky toy with me, so we were not prepared to talk about things. He squeaks at me. That was so funny. We started that, okay. But you know, and it's really understanding that there are certain people who are sucked in and duped, right? And they are going to remain duped. There are those that are just sitting there too terrified to move, whether you can, you know, you're not able to move right or left or anything. And there are those who are absolute active and getting up and saying, let's go. And we really have to put on the armor of faith and trust in God, and know that we there's a whole team of warriors that have come down together at this time and literally waking people up. And there are those that are waking up. And when you wake them up, it's like something in them goes ka-ching, and it's like, right, we got to move, we got to go, we got to do, we got to act, you know. And it's coming from a true place of the heart. And I just see, you know, and this is what I love about our communities here, because there's a bunch of people that understand that. And we are all in this together. We're all walking this path together. And everyone has the same ideals. So I don't know, Kerri, you know, all I can say is thank you for your part in what you do and what you bring to the table. And it's
thanks.
It's amazing. It's amazing for us to see.
Because I was like, I know I've shared a fair bit already, you know, about my life, but I haven't. And I've said this to Chantelle, I haven't even begun to share the things that I've experienced. And because I've just wanted to be very cautious, and I wanted to be ready to say it, wanted to be in the right place to say it. And I can't, how can I word this? What you see here is, you know, like you see someone pretty together and smiling, and you know, it's what you're seeing the good side, like you're seeing me articulate well, and you're, you know, I'm able to share openly, or I'm choosing to share bits that, you know, I'm most comfortable with. But that's born out of absolute pain and trauma on a level that is indescribable. I don't think I could adequately give you the words to describe what it was like for me having to relive the horrific abuses that I went through, and the emotional tearing away at every fiber of my being as a small child, like, and then having to endure that as an adult, and not having any control over the uncontrollable shaking, the things that came out of my mouth, the things that were being revealed to me, and the images of what I endured that were racing at me at 100 miles per hour. It was like it was happening for the very first time on my bedroom floor. Like it was happening. And I remember, you know, being choked and tortured and set alight, and having the most horrendous things said to me, and feeling like my life was like I was the lowest of low, as if I had no right to exist, that I had no right to breathe the same air as everybody else. And that, you know, when you think about that, your whole psyche, as well as your whole body and everything about you, has been violated in a way that you just think you're not going to recover from. When you're having those flashbacks, you just don't think that you're going to recover to some sense of normalcy after that, because there's been an absolute tearing away of what you thought your world was like, and you have to adjust to that. You have to come to a realization and the acceptance that these things happen, and learn to love yourself through it. You have to learn that, because when you experience that and it's a realization for the first time, it's hard to get up the next morning. It's hard to get up the next day and smile, walk down the street and take care of your children, or, like do a job, go to work. I was having flashbacks at night. I would come home. I remember the very first one I had, and I'd been taking care of a client, and I know why I was absolutely triggered. It was a young 5-year-old girl that had been separated from her mother. Her mother had intellectual disability, and the department had removed this child into foster care, and it was my job to supervise these two together. And I remember putting and this is after I was assaulted. This was in the year that I was trying to hold myself together. And I remember putting the child in the car, and as I'm buckling her in, Mum starts screaming, "I want my baby, I want my baby." And then the little 5-year-old starts screaming, "I want my mummy." And I'm in the middle of this, right? And you can imagine then, I'm an adopted child torn from my mother, right? And I'm copping this, and I have to calm Mum down, try and come. And I'm driving off to take this child back to the foster home. The child is in the back of the seat, screaming hysterically for their mother. And I managed to go into some sort of a dissociative sort of state to endure getting this child to their foster mum, and got the car back to the department, ended my shift, and I drove home. I don't remember driving home. I remember walking through the door. I remember going to the kitchen sink to make myself a cuppa. A friend of mine, so I was divorced at this stage, a friend of mine came, she was living with me at the time, came bouncing in the kitchen, "How'd your day go?" And I went to say, "Oh, well, it was, wasn't very pleasant," but that's not what came out of my mouth. All of a sudden, I just slumped forward in the seat. She said my face went as white, ashen white, and next minute I'm in almost like a fetal position. And what comes out of my mouth is, "Stop the hitting, stop the hitting." I repeated it a number of times. I could hear myself say it, but I was like, what was that? Like, I came out of it for a few seconds to go, what was that? And then it happened again. I said it a couple more times, and then it stopped, and we kind of looked puzzled at each other, and we're like, I have no idea what that's about. And then it just kept progressing to the point where I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I was obviously reliving my adoptive father suffocating me and other things. So I would go to step out of the bed, and I'd step off the bed and nothing would work. My legs wouldn't work. I couldn't speak. I couldn't get help. I couldn't, there was nothing I could do. And, these are things I endured. So sometimes my friend would hear me, she'd come in the bedroom, and I would be reliving an event from a particular age. And many times I wouldn't remember that they'd happened. And so I got her to actually write down things, and I got her to ask me specific questions like, how old are you? Who is it? What's happening? And we had a very clear line of, don't touch me. You cannot touch me. As soon as she went to touch me to try and comfort me, I would just retreat and just shut down. So there were different ages, because sometimes I'd count my fingers. And so I would know that something would have happened the next morning, but I wouldn't have remembered everything. So by her having written it down, she could convey to me, and that's how I start to piece things together for myself and work things through. So it didn't happen every night, but I'd get up and go to work the next day. I'd go and do it all over again. And because I need to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table and pay the mortgage and everything. And it finally got to the point where I went to see the work psychologist, and because I was frightened about having some sort of episode at work. I was frightened of being triggered at work. And I remember my first appointment, and I went in and I'm like, I need to talk about something. And she had pen and paper in her hand. I said, I'm not opening my mouth until you actually put the pen and paper down, because I don't want it recorded. And that was when I first divulged some information. So thank you. Steery, is it Steery Greenwood?
Statter is I don't know what statter is stars. That's statter. Statter means stars in Afrikaans. I don't know
wow, thank you.
What language you are. Maybe Dutch, could be Dutch, but that in Afrikaans is stars.
Yeah. So, you know, I there are things I have not shared yet, and but the good thing is, you know, I've really worked through a lot of stuff, and I've really understood from God that I do matter, and that as horrific and as painful as my journey has been, and I can see God's hand from the moment, you know, I was born right until now. I mean, I've had the most amazing week. A couple of things happened this week that were just amazing, that I can just see God just doing incredible things. And I feel so, I wouldn't say lucky, but so blessed that I've endured, and that I've endured things that have taught me so much about myself and other people, you know, because I didn't think I'd live past 18. Like, I really didn't. And then when I had all the flashbacks, I didn't think I'd get through that either. So to be sitting here today is an absolute miracle. And though people say, you know, I'm really strong in that, I do want to give the credit due to my Lord and Savior in this, that he's been with me every step of the way, and there's nothing that I've endured that he didn't feel himself. And that's what he's taught me. You know, anything good that's come from me comes from God, because I've been willing to accept that, you know, willing to endure it. And so, you know, and the biggest lesson for me was understanding, do I have any value at all? Like, he's been trying to teach me the whole way, regardless of how they've treated you, Kerri, you have immense value. And the value isn't about doing. It isn't about whether I go out and, you know, continue to lobby, or my value isn't about how hard I can work, or how much money I could achieve, or, you know, anything like that. My value is just in because I exist, because God loves me. It's like me having my own children. My own children were immense value, and they were babies. They didn't have to do anything. Even as adults, like, I look at them and go, it doesn't bother me whether you go to university. It doesn't bother me whether you got a high-paying job. I love you just because you're you. That's it. I value you. And if there was anything that I was to take out of what I've lived through that I want to convey to people, is that God loves you just for being you, and you don't have to earn that. We were born, and we didn't have to earn our love from our parents. We were just loved by, well, not so much my parents, but those that are lucky to have loving parents. That is our relationship with God. He loves you because you were his child, and there's nothing you have to do to earn his love. Just like, you know, our children, they don't have to do anything to earn our love. They automatically receive it.
Exactly. Yeah. Just for being you, you know, just for being so blessing.
Yeah.
It's come from God. You are loved and cherished and so precious. And, you know, watched every moment of every day as you grow into little toddler, and then whatever, you know.
and the good thing is that, you know, I'm learning most of all that if I'm stepping out and doing anything, like being on the show, it's not because I'm trying to earn anything from God. I'm doing it because I enjoy doing it. And I love talking to Chantelle, and I love talking to other people. And, you know, if tomorrow it should stop, it's not going to diminish my value. You know, I'm going to walk away still knowing I have immense value. And that's been my journey. And that's, you know, that's beautiful. Like, to me, that's so huge, you know. So, tomorrow is my dad's memorial. My biological dad passed away, and we haven't had his memorial because one of the sisters had to leave the country, and so tomorrow will be a new step for me. I've never been in this position before, to go to a biological parents' memorial, and I don't know what to expect. There are going to be people there that don't know I exist, and so it's going to be interesting, because
I think it's so time, just to be there and be who you are. I think God also grants us these opportunities for us to take them. And, it's really not about how they receive you. That's the way I would see it. It's about you knowing who you are and actually having the courage to say, well, this is who I am, and it doesn't really matter how anyone else, not that you're going to go there and bulldoze your way over. I know that's not your nature, but just to sort of own that, I think that is such a powerful thing, just to own who you are.
Yes.
You are not responsible for his actions. When he decided to create you, and and that was his choice, right? And you were a consequence of that choice, and the fact that you had to pay the price basically for your entire childhood and stuff. I think I couldn't think of you honoring yourself in a more high way than to actually say, well, I am his daughter. For me, that is you honoring you. That is you saying, I do matter. Do I matter? Oh, hell, I do. This is who I am, little shield maiden, 4'2" of me.
There's another photo. There's another photo there, which is probably the right time to bring it up. You'll see me holding something on my lap.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up.
Thing to kind of there. All right. So it was funny. I pulled this out today, and I'm about 12. I think I'm there. I'm at a school camp, the only school camp I ever went on. And at the school camp, they would have concerts. They invite kids up to do stuff. That is a ventriloquist doll sitting on my lap called Tommy Talker. Right. Now, I looked at this doll today, and I actually showed somebody. I just said, can you have a look at this? Who does this remind you of? And this person said, your father. The doll looks like my dad.
Oh, my word.
Yeah, and I taught myself ventriloquism. And it's really funny because my dad was an entertainer. He was a comedic entertainer. And what I haven't had in this photo, because there were people in it that I couldn't get their permission to go on, YouTube channel. So I cut them out. But there are people, young people to the right of me, losing it in laughter by obviously the skit that I was obviously doing with this doll. So and I think about if my dad had only seen me as a child, we would have gotten on like a house on fire, because my dad was just so funny. He did skits, he did caricatures, and him and I would have just really, really gelled together, so but yeah, Tommy Talker, he had a little string at the back of him, and I'd be able to speak and not move my mouth. I just taught myself. It came naturally. It really did.
You're actually smiling there, Kerri. You actually look quite happy in this picture. Yeah.
So I was being creative. I was in my element, being funny. Yeah. I'm a very funny person. Well, I wasn't very, I don't know. Yeah. So I know. I just make up these skits, and I was in my element. That was really special, doing that. So yeah, and it reminded me today when I pulled it out and I saw it, and I thought, wow, that looks like my dad. So that was really weird. So yeah. So yeah. So
Oh, Kerri. Wow, that's beautiful.
yeah,
Love your story.
yeah. So yeah, anyway, the whole thing is about, do we matter? Do I matter? And of course, you know, when I look back on my childhood, and I really realize a lot of things that I may not have mattered in the scheme of things to my adoptive parents. Um, you know, but what I've endured matters, and who I am matters. I think what I've endured matters, and it matters in a whole heap of ways. You know, um, when I was a youth worker and I would get the kids, you get some really, really rough kids in the shelter, and I'd have to be addressing some of the behaviours. And the kids would, some of them would go, "What would you know? You went to university. You were born with a silver spoon in your mouth." That sort of attitude. Sometimes I would have, because you know, we could have kids there for 12 months, and so if a kid had come in, and I would have built a really good relationship with them, and I would have shared bits and pieces about myself to try and get them to understand I got them. And I remember, you know, when a new kid had come in, and he or she would be getting stuck into me and saying, "Well, what would you know? You wouldn't know anything what it's like to, you know, have it tough or whatever." And you'd see the other kid that knew, you could go, "Oh man, are you going to learn the hard way?" You know, and it was really good, because once the kids learned that I had very much the same life as they did, but even worse, they then would look at me and go, "Well, how'd you get a job like this? Like, you had to have gone to university." I went, "No." Right? You know, I didn't swear, I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, right? I didn't talk smart, but so the kids could actually see that I had actually made something of my life, and they were looking at me going, "Well, how'd you get here?" And so then I would share how I got to that point. And then next minute, the kids are going back to school, or doing courses, or changing the way they dress, or, you know, taking better care of themselves and making better decisions, because I was able to give them an example of, you don't have to be your past, you don't have to accept the lies told about you, and that
Right.
you can make choices about that. So that was the beauty of it. And I remember I saved a young girl from committing suicide one night. She was actually a victim of satanic ritual abuse, and um, something quite bad led up to the point that she was going to take her life, and I actually had to intervene. And we managed to do that and keep her safe. Anyway, she abruptly moved away from the shelter and out of the area. Never heard from her again. 10 years had passed. And then we were having what's like a 10-year reunion in the shelter, and we're inviting old clients back. And one of the staff said that there was a person that had wanted to know if I still worked there, but couldn't make the event. And anyway, it turns out it was this young girl, and I was given her phone number. And so a couple of days later, I rang her, and we arranged to meet up. And we met at sort of like this community place, and she had two young girls with her daughters. And I wanted to order food and coffee and that, and I walked over, and as I'm walking back, she starts laughing, and I'm like, what are you laughing about? She goes, "You still got that walk." And I'm like, "What walk?" She goes, "That gentle, don't mess with me walk." And I go, "I do?" She goes, "Oh yeah." She says, "And it kept us in line. You didn't have to say a word." And I went, "Really?" And then, so it cracked me up. And then we were sitting there, and of course I wanted to know more about her life, what had happened since she left. And she got very, very, just sort of toned the moment down. And she sort of grabbed my hand, and she says, "That moment that you intervened." And I said, "Yeah, I remember it is." She didn't want to say too much in front of the kids. She says, "In that moment, she says, by you intervening, you told me that I had value. You told me I had worth by trying to intervene. And she said, I moved out of the area because I had to get away from the influences that were going to kill me, right? And she says, I want to tell you, she said, that pivotal moment is what changed my life. She says, I went on a whole new direction. And she says, I got help for myself. And she says, I'm now married. These are the 2 children. And she says, I'm currently studying to be a youth worker. Right. So,
Wow.
and I just sat there, go, wow. She said, it was you that did it. I wouldn't be here if it hadn't been for you. So, yeah, when I think about, what I've been through, and she's not the first one that sort of said something to me like that, but that's the one I remember the most because I remember the hell that she had been through. You know, to look you in the eye and say to you, thank you, you saved my life, and now my life has changed and I want to help other people because of what you took that time to intervene for me, and you told me I was worth something. And you know, that I'll never ever forget that moment. That's just pictured in my brain so strongly. And to see her 2 beautiful healthy girls sitting there in that moment, I would say to you that I would go through all the hell on the earth by being abused to have that moment. You know what I mean? Like, I don't trade anything. If I had had a charmed life, I don't think I would ever have been in that position. And, you know, there are countless young people that, you know, I could read stories, you know, and so did my life matter? Like, do I matter? And I just want to encourage anybody that's had or is experiencing now still the most, you know, horrible things. It mightn't make sense now, but fight for yourself and learn the lessons that you need to through it, because God has a plan for you. At the end of the day, every life has value. It doesn't matter who you are. And you just don't know what influence you're having. You just don't. You just don't. What you take for granted, the smallest things can turn out to be monumentous. They can be. They can be huge.
Absolutely. I love that. You know, and I think once you've understood your abuse the way that you have, you know, it brings in so much empathy and so much compassion for other humans, and understanding, you know, the gifts that you receive from those experiences are absolutely, they are priceless. There's no amount of money, there's no amount of anything that can buy that. No university can teach you that. No college can teach you that. That is something that is a gift from God. And I always say gifts are meant to be shared. So that is, you know, when you are able to share that, then that's when mission is accomplished. And that's when we, like, you know, it's like I always say, your light, that candle that you are, costs nothing to light another, right?
Yes.
So then people come and light their candles from you, from your flame. And that is priceless. There's nothing that anyone can do that will,
you know, my little box, I'm going to refer to it again for a reason. So, you know, my little box that's got the mirror in it.
Yeah, your box.
Okay. When I was a youth worker, I used to do life skills programs. I used to run a program every week for the kids for about 3 hours. And anyway, when I first did this, I'd have the box and I'd wrap it up as a present. And I had a little section at the top that you could open, but the kids weren't allowed to open it to the end. And we did a bit of a program on but a bit of that, like what we're talking about, but it'd be quite structured, right? And at the very end of it, I'd say to the kids, I want you to come up together 2 by 2, and I want you to have a look in the box, but you're not allowed to say anything, and you're not allowed to tell anybody behind you or give away what you've seen. So I've shown it you before. It's got a mirror in it, right? But I had written on it valuable, irreplaceable, breakable, that sort of stuff written all over this with a dressed up like a birthday gift or a Christmas gift, you know. So I'd have these words on it, and I get the kids to repeat the words before they looked inside. And they'd come up 2 by 2, and as they've opened it up, they both looked in at the same time, right? So they went, oh, you know, they're looking at the person beside them and vice versa. And this is what I would say to them as they all sat down in their own, we just sit quietly, and I'd say, every time we share something about ourselves, it's a gift to another person. How do we value that gift? So that's what I wanted to move them to, that we share little bits about ourselves every day, in the street, with our family, with a stranger. And how do we value that gift? And it's about, we are each a gift that we give ourselves and to other people. And so how can we get in touch with you, Kerri? Yeah, all right.
Do you want to put your email address here, Kerri? Do you want to put your email address in there?
Yeah, all right.
Just give it to me. I'm not sure if you can. Just give it to me, whatever you're prepared to.
It's you want it now? It's Kez.
Yeah.
KEZA DOPT. So it's Kez Adopt 62 at gmail.com.
Yeah, if you guys want to get in touch with Kerri, she's a brilliant little honey. Little fork honey.
That's it. Very good. Thank you. Yes. So yeah. So these are the little lessons, because a lot of the kids were they weren't illiterate, but the school system had failed them. So I had to come up with really creative ways to reach the kids' hearts. And these are the things I do. So, you know, a perfect example of it I would ask the kids to draw 3 things that really meant a lot to them. And they'd spend, 20 minutes or so drawing something about their parents or fishing or motorbikes or something they really did well. And then I would get the kids in a circle and they would share about themselves to the group. And I always and I always did this for a reason, because there was always a kid in the group that was abusive to all the other children. And he would belittle the other children when they shared things about themselves. Even if girls had been raped or molested, he would make jokes and mockery. So there was different types of kids I would have. And I deliberately would do this game with them, and they would share, right? So all the kids would share, and they'd hand it to me. I'd thank you very much, and I'd really applaud them for sharing their story. I'd wait for this child that was the most aggressive at the end to share his story. And when I got his piece of paper, I just ripped it up and threw it over my shoulder. And you could hear, like, he just gasped, or it could have been a girl, absolute gasp, almost have a meltdown. And the other kids are like, like, what's going to happen here? And then I would have this child become really vocal. How dare you? Why is it that you treated mine like that? Everybody else has got, that's not right. And he would verbalize, because I'd encourage it. Well, say what you think. Like, I really want to know how hurt you are. And he would really let it out, and all the F words and everything. And I'd say, good, I'm really pleased that you feel that way. And they're like, all the kids are just looking at me going, what are you doing? You're going to get murdered, And this kid's really angry and incredulous, and I'm just encouraging it all to come out. And then I said, I want you to hang on to that feeling. It's exactly how I give you permission to feel like that, because that's how you make every one of these other kids feel when you belittle them and abuse them and put them down when they share very personal things about themselves. What they share is a gift. And I said, that's what you do. What I did, ripping up what you shared, something very personal about yourself. You were really offended, you were hurt, and you were angry. I wanted you to feel that, so you could feel exactly how these other children felt when you did that to them.
Very important.
Yeah. These are the lessons that I would teach the kids. And it was so interesting. I never went to university. I am not.
Exactly.
I did 3 diplomas in 9 months. I'd failed school, but later on in my career, after the birth of my baby, I decided to go back, and I noticed that a lot of the staff were qualified, so I said, I better get qualified. So I actually went and did 3 diplomas in 9 months while I was renovating a house and paying off a mortgage and working, just about 24/7. And and at the end of it, the place where I got the diplomas wanted to employ me, but I lived too far away because I did it by recognised prior learning. So I had been doing all this work in the field, and I just needed the piece of paper to prove that I knew what I was doing. And so I would do all these diplomas and do 3 of them at once. No pressure.
Wow.
And and I really enjoyed that component, and it's a real it was a gift. It was something that I never knew that I actually possessed. I went to a training program, a 10-day training program with other youth workers, and realized that I actually had this gift of working with young people. And my boss offered a position to me that I was terrified to take. He obviously saw something I didn't know. And lo and behold, as soon as he gave me the position, light bulbs went on, and I just felt like I was a kid in a candy store. And I would develop programs. I would read books and then develop it into a physical activity, because you can't sit there and read to kids, they tune out. But yeah, so does my life matter? Do I matter? Has my...
I think you do matter. And I think you really just answered your own question, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is amazing, and thank you so much for sharing that. I know it's not been an easy share for you, but
No.
I think it's been so important and pretty much essential. So thank you for that, Kerri.
Yeah, thank
Really.
you. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And that flower looks like a koala's face.
It does. Well, see, that's his eyes and that's his nose.
Nose and ears, right? I mean,
I can see it now.
So you should call that your koala flower. Anyway, wow, that's really been wonderful. Thank you so much. And I want to just again say thank you to everyone in the chat who's joined and connected. And if anyone wants to connect with Kerri, you've got her email now in the chat there. You're welcome to contact her. And again, I encourage you guys, if there's any of you who'd like to step forward and share your story, with Kerri Koala. I think from I would call you Kerri Koala.
You're so cheeky.
I mean, in Australia, you found those cute little bears, and I know they're like,
we call them drop bears. We tell all the tourists they're drop bears, and they're savage. And then, if you go out in the bush, look out for the drop bears. And they go, what are they?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Kerri, and again, Easy, thank you so much for your contribution. Much, much, much appreciated. So squeak. I'm getting a squeak from Caleb again. Because Caleb doesn't show his face on our shows. So whenever I've overstepped the mark, I get the, those squeaky toys. that are his dog's toys, right? Okay, it's like down, biatch. I get squeaked at. Wow. I love this. And so thank you so much for everything and just being here, guys. Kerri, you're welcome. Would you like to end off in prayer for us? I think it's been a great conversation.
That would be lovely. Yeah, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for the beautiful, kind, supportive comments. And I feel like I've joined some sort of community that's, I don't know, it just feels really weird. I just feel like I really belong here. And that's a lot coming from me, you know. It's like, well, cast off, adopt D. I feel like I've found my tribe. A weird, lovely bunch of people have experienced some pretty adverse things, and I think it's a beautiful place to be. And I just want to thank everybody for being supportive towards me in particular. And I'm pleased that I'm here and alive and able to share my story. So thank you, everyone. So I'll finish with prayer. Thank you. Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for being amongst us. Thank you for helping us to share, and for me to be able to share some very painful parts of my story, Lord. And I just want to thank you for those that are also struggling, that may be here, Lord, and needed to hear my story. And I pray, Lord, that they'll find strength in it. And I just want to pray, Lord, that you continue to shine a light through Aquarius Rising, and bless Chantelle and those who continue to come on and speak about their journey in whatever shape or form it comes in, Lord. We just want to thank you for the blessings that we receive every day from you. Oh, Lord, how you love us. Lord, help us to always understand that we are your child and you value us so much, Lord. And this we pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, beautiful Kerri, and thank you again, everybody. So good to have a Friday with us. And I want to just tell you that from next year, Kerri will be in on Monday, not a Friday. So Monday, same time.
Yep.
But we will keep you updated. But just watch the space. We're having a bit of a change of schedule for Kerri on Monday. Yay, everybody. God bless you all. I wish you health, wealth, and abundance of everything that is good and wonderful. And have an amazing holiday with your families and everyone, all your loved ones at this time, whether you celebrate Christmas or not. It really is just a time for being with your families and your loved ones. And even if you don't, if you're like me, you just like being on your own, that's cool too. Enjoy that time. Just take a little break from it all. And but I'm certainly not knocking off for the December period. I'll be here for most of my shows, actually, and especially those, those who are willing to come on during this time as well. So we'll be here. And as always, thank you so much. And again, to those of you who are Patreons, and I know, Kerri, you're a Patreon, thank you so much for supporting our channel. And for those of you who donated and supported, and I cannot tell you how overwhelmed and blessed we feel at your generosity. It is absolutely unbelievable. So thank you so much, and may you be blessed tenfold in return. Take it easy. We'll see you soon.
Blessings, everyone. Bye.